my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white, yeah, it's black and white, we're just black and white, it's my black and white, it's my black and white scarf.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the Turn M podcast. It is season 6, episode 12 already. It's a double header weekend and it's back-to-back victories, making this an excellent Easter weekend for Dundalk FC to go through tonight's victory over St. Patrick's Athletic and maybe have a little look back over the Shells game too. We're joined by James Rogers. James, how are you, pal?
Oh, good after that result, yeah. Great Easter weekend. Didn't even need any eggs.
Absolutely. James, I suppose we came into this game today on the back of the victory over Shelbourne. We knew, probably looking at the lineup and substitutes that Kieran made on Friday, that we were probably in for a much changed lineup. Were the changes as you expected?
Some yes, some no. I did expect Dervin to come back in for Keith Buckley. Just 2 games in such quick succession. I didn't think he'd start in both of them. Maybe less surprised at Mayoa. He was obviously brilliant, I thought, in Talca the other night, but he is sort of nursing a little injury at the moment and probably not worth risking him. Did I expect maybe Shane Tracy or Sean Spate to start? Maybe not, but I mean, both lads, as I'm sure we'll get into, had decent impacts in the game. So, it's what you have to do to maybe freshen things up. Like hindsight's a great thing, but does Stephen Kenny wish maybe he had freshened it up a little bit more from Friday? I could see why he didn't either, because they were on such a good run. But look, you have to do that at times, and I'm sure. We're obviously down a lot of bodies ourselves. I'm sure if the Ronan Teehans, Danny Mullins, etc., the world were available, you would have seen more changes from Dundalk as well. But to put in the shift that they did, considering it was brilliant once again.
Like when we look at probably these 2 victories over this weekend, James, it's not the characteristics you're probably used to seeing to a newly promoted side. Like Kieran's put a stamp on this team of being very competitive in matches, bringing matches to teams, whether it's home or away.
Yeah, like he's had that attitude. I think he even said after the game, we've had a swing at everyone. I think is the way he referred to it as, and he does. It's kind of front foot stuff, and like even reflecting on the game and for all the possession that Pats had in the second half. I think it was the ultimate, like the big chance of probably the second half was a Ruby saved by Anang, So for all Pats had, it was still Dundalk sort of going for that third goal. And again, I thought maybe Pat's best spell in terms of pressure was just maybe before half time. Jason McClellan probably should have scored, but even in that period, Daryl Horgan has a really big chance again saved by Anang. So like they really go at teams and force them, to think on their feet, and it's ballsy, for want of a better term, but it's really paying off right now.
Like I think one person that's probably caught everyone's eye this weekend has been Bemi Ruby in particular. Tonight, like the characteristics that he's showing this year in being strong, holding the ball up, bringing others in. You can see a progression from that player, from the player we had in the first division last year, and it's really, he's becoming a central figure now to how this team play.
He is. He's like, it's incredible the transition. Like, because like if you go back to this time last year, he hadn't started a game for us yet. He didn't actually start his first game till like mid-May, when I think the week before he got that late equaliser against Bray, and it was only the Cove game that really he came into the side for after that. And he hasn't really looked back. I think it's something like 16, 17 goals in 23 starts, which is incredible. But it's what he gives you in terms of an outball as well. It's just simply superb. He holds it up so well. Anything that goes up into the channels, he really sticks at it. And you must remember, like tonight, for example, that back three outside of Bowes. Like, I think Pats, even despite their 2-0 defeat, still have the second best defence in the country. And, they've been a brilliant back three. I mean, boy, did he sort of rattle them. Like, even that chance towards the end, he sort of overpowering Joe Redmond, who I think we'd all say is one of the best defenders in the league. And, considering players like, I know Michael Duffy probably has more goals than him and things like that, but is there a better striker in the country right now if we say Duffy's not a striker and Harry Wood's not a striker? But I struggle to say the answer to that is yes, because what he gives you, like obviously he scored goals. I still think he can do better in that regard. He's missed a few sitters, like he probably should have had one in Shells the other night on top of us, the one he did score. But what he gives you in terms of the hold up play and bringing others in. I mean, there was a great ball even early on to Daryl Horgan that Daryl didn't hit the target with, but I mean, the work to create the chance. I mean, you could go through several players and pick out, people who've evolved, but I think when he signed for Dundalk last year, I don't think any of us really knew what he was. He was sort of like an awkward winger.
Yes. He was out on the right mostly when he first came in with us, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think I remember like a pre-season game or something, and he beat two players and fell over or something, and that was kind of maybe what Shelbourne and Waterford had seen, where ability but maybe no end product. But the way Kilduff has converted him, even such a simple thing, but he wore the number 11 shirt last season. He's now the number 9. And I mean, what a number 9 he is, and it's the biggest testament to him, I suppose, is that like Danny Mullins obviously missed the last few matches and hasn't even been in the squad, and you nearly don't miss him. Obviously, you would rather have him back as an option, and he can play in the 10 behind Bemi as well. But like, he's just been a handful for everyone, and all his goals have actually come away from Ori. He hasn't scored at home yet. But even that, to go to the plate to the likes of Derry and Galway and Bowes and Shells and score. And he'll probably feel himself he should have had more in some of those matches. Is a real sign of the development that he's had. And I spoke to him after the game in Bowes, and he said he wants double digits for the season. Well, he's 4 already, so would you back against him doing that if he stays fit? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, like a goal involvement as well tonight from Bemi as well, setting up Tyreke Wilson for the opener. Because that goal came so early in the game, James, it just kind of felt like it set the tone for the rest of the match thereafter. I know Pats had a very good chance just before that Enda Minogue got down and saved well. But to go back down the other end then and to score deflected efforts. But the one thing that struck me was kind of similar to the positions where we've probably seen Bobby Burns pop up in, is just that edge of the box. It seems to be something that, laying balls off and getting on them and having a popped shot, which, more time often you see those kind of high and rise and gone, but we seem to be getting these towards the goals like we done with Bobby Burns on Friday night. And, Wilson, I suppose it's one of those, you got to buy the ticket to win the lotto sort of a thing. So he hits it, yeah. You get fortunate with the deflection, but that's the luck you get when you hit it.
Yeah, and a big moment in the game, I felt, because they started really, really strong. And granted, it was only 7.5 minutes or whatever, but like they had that big chance. Mata, probably should have scored. He's a great record against Dundalk, 5 goals and 7 before tonight, all in Oriel. And, it's put on a plate for him by James Brown. To be fair, Minogue, again, question marks over, was he demand to step up? But he basically hasn't put a foot wrong again. No. I thought he was excellent tonight. But that's a big save, because if that goes in, it's probably a very, very different game. But he makes the save, and then, look, a bit of luck, but it lifted everyone in the ground. Another decent turnout for a bank holiday Monday. Obviously, people away and stuff, but like it got people going then, and gave Dundalk a sort of foothold, and they were brilliant in that first half. Probably should have had more than two if you're being greedy about it, but like they played with a swagger and a confidence, and Pat's couldn't deal with it at times.
Like you say, Pat's had that opportunity. We do take the lead. We get ourselves back in there. Then it seemed like the team just grew in confidence all of a sudden. There's great passing going on, and I think even the lead up to that second goal, we're able to swap it from one side of the pitch to the other, and several people involved in the attack. It's nearly kind of swashbuckling football at times. Like it's high risk and high reward football, but like it just shows you go and you get the numbers in there, you put it to these teams. We talked about, I'm not too sure, James, if you were on, I don't think it was yourself that was, I think it might have been myself and Gally, but that 4-0 defeat to Pats didn't feel like a 4-0 defeat. It felt like every goal that Pats got, we kind of gifted them. But you take back of Owen Kenny's shot before half time. There's the one off the post, there's a clearance off the line. There was opportunities for us to get back in that game. It didn't feel like a 4-0 defeat. But tonight, it felt like we were kind of equal to Pats, and at times, obviously, with the 2 goals, better than them, that we could take it to these teams. It felt like a huge confidence booster. And that second goal, just that commitment to players, numbers out wide, Bemi going for the ball, breaking back, and we're able to get that back in again from Shane Tracy. It just shows the confidence that maybe that first goal gave to this team to push us on to go and get a second one.
Yeah, it was absolutely huge. And I said to Davey Rispin, doing a bit of comms on LMFM, like that, but Pats are wearing the Barcelona colours, but we were playing like them, And I really felt like that for a while, because I don't want to gloss over Shane's goal because it was a big moment for him, but we think of some of the other moments that maybe came to nothing, like Owen Kenny absolutely skinning Joe Redmond on the headline and pulling it back, and there was that incredible break. I think it was Horgan or Ruby and Sean Spate of all people popping up, almost getting a shot away. Like it was fabulous stuff at times, and a pleasure to watch. But just the old saying, make hay when the sun shines, and we did with that second goal, because poor Darren Nugent, he didn't do a lot wrong tonight, and he had a bit of a nightmare, because he was at the first goal, it was his deflection that took it in, and then it was his slip that sort of led to the second. But again, it's having people in the right places. It's funny, I was on the way to the game tonight, and I said I fancy Harry Groom for a goal tonight. It was based on a number of things. He kind of occupies that sort of edge of the box area really, really well, and probably should have had a goal already on his books already this season. Just hasn't come off, but I felt Pats would give up that sort of opportunity, and we've seen that a lot in, say, the Leinster Senior Cup final last year, where he did actually score in that game. So I just felt to be a bit of joy from it at some point, but he obviously didn't start, but the man who came in for him kind of did capitalise on that sort of situation, and it was brilliant for Shane. I mean, you couldn't script it better. 2 days after your 20th birthday, and obviously Premier Division first start. What a weekend for him, because obviously came on and made a bit of an impression against Shells on Friday too. So a really, really, really nice one for him, and particularly being a local guy as well. It was a special one.
Yeah, just have a quick look down through some of the comments coming in on the Instagram. People talk about Ruby being a real handful, and then Sean Orr was delighted when he finally got subbed off that he didn't have to face him anymore. A lot of people talking about Sean Spate will look really good, very comfortable, was in there as well, and I think it's always great when you just see a night where there's loads of players you don't expect maybe to step up and have had a real strong game. James, you talked about probably Pat's stronger moment just coming in before half time. How important do you think it was to get to 2-0 at half time? There was that big opportunity when it was, I think it was, shot was taken over just before half time as well. Minogue kind of out and big. But I think if they had squeaked one back in at that time, it could be a very different second half.
Yeah, you were kind of you know, as good as we were in our first half times, I think we started dropping a bit deep in the build up to the break, and you were kind of wishing the halftime whistle to come, and I think there was even added time at the end of that half, but it did feel like we just needed to get there, and I think had McClellan was obviously the one with the big chance, but like had that gone in, you know, Dave something to really cling to, and particularly, you know, after the experience of Friday, I know we got the result in the end in Talca, but when you're 2-0 up and you go 2-0 behind, you don't want to do, you know, big squander 2-0 leads too often. So but it was a very professional job then, I thought, in the second half. It obviously, as a spectacle, wasn't as thrilling to watch or anything, but just the way we managed it and cut their momentum at times, and, you know, frustrated them. You know, it was good, but like, to be fair, as you say, coming up to halftime, I just thought we were maybe flagging a little bit. Like, obviously, it's been a rough schedule. We don't have the ability to rotate maybe as much as other teams, but I mean, the way they saw it out, and again, you know, rode their luck at times as well. Let's be honest, but I mean, you need to do that in this league, and you know they done it really well, and I think, you know, the one thing, you know, you should probably touch on is, like, I mean, there's different people stepping up all the time. It's not always, I know, like, Ruby's rightly taking plaudits, but again, I think if you had done a poll of people who listen to this podcast week in, week out, and said pick the 2 Dundalk scorers today, I don't think Tyreek Wilson and Shane Tracy would have been on too many betting slips, you know. But
I would have thought so.
But it just goes to show you that, like, you know, it's within them all, and like, again, I still go back to it. We haven't had that moment of maybe a centre back popping up one yet or anything like that. So it's good that it's all shared round, and it's there's just such a. I think I said the last time, I think it was after the Sligo game I was on with you before, and there's just such a spirit to this group that, like, it can take you a long way, and it really is at the moment.
In his post-match chat, Stephen kind of lamented the 2 injuries. They had probably forced changes too early and made him shuffle the pack a touch, and obviously use up 2 substitutes that he wasn't expecting to be using so early. Did you feel that kind of took the momentum out of Pats for that, say, first half an hour or whatever, until everything kind of settled down with them?
Yeah, look, it definitely doesn't help. You know, when things aren't going for you, and there was a point certainly in that second half where, like, I couldn't believe it. I think, without skipping ahead, like, I think Ryan Edmondson had a chance kind of 6 minutes into the second half or whatever. He probably should have hit the target, pulled it wide, and it was only when Ruby had that one at the end, 10 minutes from the end, I realised I actually haven't written anything here in between. Like, and for a team with so much possession and so much attacking quality, as I said before, tonight they came into as the top scorers in the league, and they were a little blunt. And look, Keena, you know, he has his injury problems, but when he's fit, he's up there with one of the, you know, the top strikers in the league, and to lose him, you know, Palmer is, we all know his qualities. He's been brilliant so far this season. Lose him, and all of a sudden you're down a lot of your sort of plan B and plan C options. And you know, Edmondson had a couple of sighters maybe, but never really looked, you know, that he was, like, you know, going to take them. And you're probably looking then, and Zingo hasn't really happened for him yet. Chris Forrester being kind of in and out of the team with injury, and you know, they didn't have that maybe ace card that maybe they would have had, say, last Friday, if, you know, if it wasn't, they also fell behind against Sligo, but they were able to come back and did plenty of options on the bench, but that kind of dried up for him. So it was a difficult night from that perspective, you know. And I'm sure if you're a Pats fan, as hard as tonight is to stomach, you're probably thinking, you know, with Rovers to come, you're probably down a few bodies now as well. So it's damaging in that regard as well.
The substitutes at halftime with JR and Keith Buckley coming in. Do you think that was just more of a shore up sort of a thing? You know, Buckley's kind of comfortable on the ball, and you think probably JR was just with experience and everything else more than anything, just to shore that up a touch.
Yeah, a bit of that, and probably a bit of managing minutes as well. Like I kind of thought Dervin might be hooked, even though he's one of the fresher players, just because of the yellow he picked up. That was probably a dark orange, maybe, but
I think so.
I'm sure you'll ask me about that, but it was probably a little bit of just managing minutes and being sensible about it. Like Kieran did say afterwards, there's a few players that probably shouldn't be playing right now that kind of are. We're obviously down bare bones stuff at times, and they're playing through the paper, but you there's a thin line between do you risk them and okay, you might get the 3 points today, but you might lose some over 3 months in the process of doing that. And I'd say there was an element of just doing that effectively, just to, we give these players 45 and that'll do them sort of thing. But we still have a fair few to come back, but it was probably the first time in a few weeks where you look at it and you say, particularly when you're ahead, you're saying, well, now all of a sudden we've J.R. Wilson, Keith Buckley, Mayo and Amasahoon. If we need to shore things up here, we have defensive options. Now you want the Mullins and the Teahans, etc., coming back in as well, because they give you an option the other way if you're chasing a game or you're looking for a goal or something. But it is a small squad, but again, you're getting real boosts out of it. Tyreek and Shane scoring today, that's 10 different goal scorers we've had already. 11 if you count the own goal by Zeno Rossi. So it's a good spread. And as I said to you off air just before we started, like, it's 9 goals in Oriel so far. We only scored 9 goals in the whole of 2024 in Oriel. So for a newly promoted club to be coming up and doing that, I think that speaks volumes. We're not afraid to have a go at teams. And, again, for what it's worth, we've only conceded the one at Oriel, that Conor Keeley goal. So at home, I think tonight was a big one in that regard, because we want Oriel to be a fortress. And it has been so far to an extent, but into the second series now, 6 of our matches, 5 after tonight, are going to be at home in this section of the league, and I don't think anyone will fancy coming to Oriel. They never probably did anyway, but like, particularly when you have a team like this in your face and with that crowd behind you, and you always sort of wonder about the sort of Monday night matches. Ironically, I just freak of it. I've been on both after 2 Monday games, but
that's right. Yeah.
You always just fear for them a little bit, because the atmosphere isn't the same as a Friday night, say. But
I think when you get a big result of the Friday as well, you're even more fearful of the Monday, because you hope you just haven't peaked too quickly, and then people's interest has waned somewhat. Kind of said, we've done the thing, we've done the hard bit, we got the big victory we're looking for. That was the Waterford game last time. It was the Shells away, and you're kind of thinking, I'm hoping people will still come out in their numbers, and today they definitely did.
Yeah, and sometimes the Friday can be forgotten by what happens on the Monday. I remember the glorious Jim McGilton era, and I always used to laugh that we'd always have a decent result on the Friday. I remember like beating Shamrock Rovers, ending their 33 match unbeaten run or whatever, and then I think we went up to Dalymount on the Monday and lost 5-1 or something, and you're saying,
that forgot that.
God, in the old days where maybe I was doing a podcast assessing things over a week, and
yes,
it's very hard to be positive about Friday night when you've had a bad result on the Monday and all that. But yeah, it's like this league, and no matter who it is, like it could be Shamrock Rovers, who are the champions, so it's very hard to go back to back Friday, Monday. Like again, Rovers haven't done it this weekend. They drew at Waterford on Friday despite a good win tonight. So like there's 2 double weekends now where we've had 2 6-pointers, which is it's phenomenal. Like and again, considering the bodies we're missing, you can't be button pressed by this group really. They're a great bunch.
Yeah, just asking for thoughts on Harvey Warren coming in today. Seemed to have a real strong game again today.
Yeah, look again. That the defense was brilliant, I thought, and but defending from the front as well, not just the back four. But he doesn't look like a lad who I think he played 4 minutes in Oriel for Dundalk prior to tonight. That was as good as his debut there as such, and again didn't put a foot wrong. He's someone I said to you before. I think the end of our chat the last time saying it was someone I really liked, but probably didn't get his opportunities as much. But it's a funny thing, and I said it afterwards. I think we've had something like 7 different defensive combinations. Maybe it could be more than that now with a few
Sean Spear coming in there as well.
Yeah, but you could argue our first choice at the start of the year, or certainly our first choice from last season, hasn't even played together yet, and that's Leonard and Anamasahun. So, it's a good place to be in when you're picking up good results, despite have we played our first choice team yet? I don't know.
It's hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah, because as I say, there's always been probably someone missing. We haven't seen Leonard in a few weeks. Cornwall's still out, Mullins out, Teagan's out, Leo Gax is to come back. So that'll all give us further options along the way. And if we can keep motoring along, great. But, people will talk tonight about us being 3 points off the top, and it's wonderful, and long may it continue. And I think Kilduff made the comment, Wardy's gone around saying, but the Mick McCarthy thing, how long could this go on? And it can, sort of thing. It can keep going, but the main thing for me is you're also 13 points clear of the bottom, which is still should be our priority. And keep enjoying this run as long as it goes, and see what happens. But I still maintain staying up is what our main ambition should be this season. But we're well on the way to sort of fulfilling that.
James, just a question in from Leo there on Instagram, just asking Duncan about Bobby Burns being moved into midfield for the past few games. Obviously, a goal on Friday, another positive performance again tonight. Seems to be a little stroke of genius that maybe moving him in there. I don't remember if he played in midfield that much for Galway previously.
Yeah, not so much Galway, but certainly up north he would have in the past, and he can give you that. And I kind of like the option he gives you there, because he's a bit, he gets stuck in, he can tackle, but he's also a decent passer, very good in tight areas, and he gets shots away. I like, for me, he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet in that position on Friday night, because again, looking at it statistically, Derry have conceded more goals than anyone from outside the box. 5 of the goals have been from outside the box this season, and he's the sort of player who doesn't mind having a pop from distance. So I'd be saying shoot on sight based on that, but maybe that's giving something a little bit away for them. But no, it's probably at times, and I like them both, but when Buckley and Dervin play together, is it a bit similar? Do you need something a bit more expressive? Now, I think Harry Grimm's really given that as well at times. But I do like what Burns gives you in there. And when you have someone like Tariq Wilson, is he too good a player to be sitting on the bench? Because if you go take them both as your left back, it's one or the other, maybe that's the best way of fitting them both into the side.
Yeah.
I've been really impressed with Keith Buckley. To me, he's been one of the surprise packages of the season, because when he signed, like if you look at his record, he only started 4 games for Bows. I don't think they won any of them last year. I'm not saying that was his fault, but I think when a player kind of comes, to you, and he hasn't played a lot of football, he's approaching that stage of it, approaching mid-30s or whatever, you're probably saying, is the legs gone? Is he finished or whatever? But he's been far from that. Like maybe he can't go Friday, Monday, but I mean,
you can see he can still have an impact though, can't he?
Yeah, he's been absolutely phenomenal. And again, I thought going back to Friday, because he played there more so, but just the little things. And again, he won't get the plaudits because he's not popping up a goals or assists or anything. But I mean, to come back even to the Bows game, I thought he was exactly what they were missing, ironically, that night. at the time when Dundalk were putting the press on them. But yeah, like it's a really good mix in there, and yeah, I think we're probably going to see Bobby in midfield a lot more than left back going forward, just purely because Tyreek is so adept at left back as well. So, and he's only going to get better. Like, he didn't. You must remember the player didn't play a lot last year due to injury and that. So he's still probably only getting up to speed a little bit, but he's progressing nicely week on week and enjoying his football again.
I suppose let's turn to the second half and turn to the two, probably the only disappointments of the night. First, injury for Conor O'Keefe. We've kind of talked about different combinations in particular the centre backs, but we seem to be most calming probably when Conor O'Keefe is with somebody there, and we've by default he may have fallen into that centre half position last year, but in particular, like Mayo and Conor O'Keefe seem to have a good relationship. Tonight it was Harvey Warren for a while and Conor O'Keefe, so it's a little bit disappointing that unfortunately Conor's picked up that injury. But look, Mayo did come in and had a solid game when he did come in.
Yeah, I didn't ask Killer how, but like it was a bang in the head and hopefully not concussed. I did see him after. I wasn't talking to him, but I did see him inside the pitch chatting to people, so he's okay in the general sense. Just hopefully it's not deemed a concussion that would rule him out for Friday. He did have a few head injuries last year, which would just be the concern because he has that history that maybe others don't. But yeah, like Chief was probably going to be my man of the match had he finished the game. I just think I just think that the simple things he does, it's a phenomenal thing actually. So he actually hasn't lost a league game he's been involved with. He's since he joined us, he's missed the ones we lost even go back into last year. So like he's almost like the lucky charm. And again, I think I said the last time here, you nearly forget about him at times because he just goes about it so simply. I was reading the report on RTE from Friday just in the build-up, and he was down as Conor O'Cleary, so but again, you talk, and again, he's at a different stage maybe of his career, but you're talking about a player who hasn't played a lot of Premier Division football, wasn't a starter for Galway when he was there, and but he's looked seamless at times, and that little a large partnership almost has worked really well when it was together. So again, that's what you want, like, and you're getting people stepping up all over the pitch, and you must remember there was question marks over a lot of these guys could they go from First Division to Premier, but I don't think there's, like, throughout the squad, I don't think there's a player you'd say looks out of
place in this. No, definitely not.
Which is a huge testament to all of them.
Yeah. Right, let's talk about Darrell's red card. It's one of the most bizarrest red cards I've ever seen. I believe, was it a pullback was his first yellow in the first half? I can't remember. It was a player coming through. I can't remember. He just took a late tackle as someone was passing, or he pulled him back. I can't quite remember what it was. It didn't look to me, James, like he was taking an eternity over this corner. I understand maybe throwing out a yellow card if a player wasn't already yellowed, but to be that your second yellow to be sent off seems very harsh to me. I don't know what you thought about it.
Yeah, and funny, I had LOI TV stream beside me as we were going along, and you're able to look at it, and he was actually roaring into the centre. It wasn't like he was just taking for it. He obviously wasn't happy with the movement or something in the box, or who was maybe it was particularly that was actually our first corner of the game, believe it or not. So maybe there was a routine work done in training or something, or maybe they'd identified something with Pats and he wanted it to happen, and whoever or whatever wasn't happening, he wasn't happy about it. It wasn't like he was just
taking his time over the ball for the sake of it.
No, he was trying to get some sort of like whatever system or whatever it was happening. So he was actually as captain instructing players to basically go where I tell you, sort of thing. And did he take it as quick as maybe you'd want if you're a Pats fan and your team's chasing a game?
Of course not.
No, I don't think it was OTT. Stephen Kenny said afterwards he didn't think it was deserving of the second yellow. Maybe the Dervin thing was in the ref's head, and he was doing a bit of, adding, up. Maybe I didn't give them that one. Maybe I'll give them this one or something. But for me, it's harsh. And look, it didn't cost us tonight, but Daryl's been immense for us, and now we're down him for Derry on Friday, which is it's a shame. I suppose one benefit of it is he's probably played more minutes than any when he gets a bit of a breather, but it's
hard to replace that quality, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and just the leadership here. Now, I know, listen, there's plenty of leaders in the team, don't get me wrong, but you don't want to be down, and particularly for that, it was so needless, I think, just one of those mad decisions that didn't need to happen, and again, just hoping that you don't miss him too much on Friday night, because it's another body. As I say, we are still missing a few players, and that's another one down.
You talked about perhaps the referee was maybe trying to even things out. Could that be a Dervin's challenge in the first half, which seemed to get everyone up from the Pats bench at the time?
Yeah, again, he probably was lucky. Let's be honest about it. Yeah. But what I will say is, and if we're looking for consistency, there's probably been a few of them this season that have had the same outcome, aka yellow card. So actually, the last time I was on with you, I couldn't remember the one I was thinking of, but it was actually Sam Glenfield on Horgan at the end of the Waterford game. Very, very similar challenge.
Oh yes, yeah. I remember when
really, really angered the Dundalk players.
That's right.
With the yellow card, though, and even go back to Friday, I thought John Martin was really late with a similar sort of one. Maybe not as bad as Dervin, to be fair, but John Martin really late, and J.R. Wilson with one. So, if you want to look into it deeper, so there's only been 5 reds in the Premier this season. We've actually got 3 of them now. Dervin against Sligo, Vinnie Leonard, which was for a pullback against Rovers, and obviously Horgan tonight. Another one of them was Pico Lopez, which was the second yellow for a pullback on Ryan O'Kane, Rovers against Sligo. And the only other straight red was Carl McHugh for a late challenge on Paisold in the Connacht Derby, which was probably more there for one against Sligo. Now, I haven't watched every minute of every game, but if you want to be consistent about it, referees do seem to be giving them as yellow. Now, it has to be deemed serious foul play. It was definitely cynical. I personally couldn't have had a qualm if he had a sore red for it. Maybe it's one of them, you win some or lose some, but he probably did get a bit lucky with that one. But yeah, I don't think if you're you don't want players rolling around either. But Keane Levy bounced up straight away and was actually giving out about the challenge, and because of that, he probably helped in a little bit. Whereas if he stayed on the ground rolling in agony, maybe that changes the card colour. But I think that in itself was maybe what saved him, because the fact that the player got up so quickly, he almost bounced up, and rather than overplayed it. So yeah, maybe there's an experience to come from that as well. Not that you encourage play acting, but we maybe look again. Think you have to ride your luck at times, and we maybe got a bit lucky with that one.
If we look back at the whole weekend, James, we've had 2 victories. We scored 5 goals. Against 2 teams, in particular away to Tolka isn't an easy fixture at any time of the year, and then having table toppers in St. Pat's coming to Oriel, like you say, who've been free scoring. Probably if Kieran and Ken look back at it and say, what a dream weekend would look like, it would be probably something like this, minus maybe the injuries.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have asked for more. I'm sure if we were previewing this weekend and said we'll give you 5 points from the 3 matches, and I'm including Derry in that, you'd probably say that's a really good return. But we've already got 6 with a game to come. So I mean, it's a nice place to be in. And you know what, they've deserved both of them as well. I took the opportunity to go to the away end in Talca, and even just before Shelbourne's second goal, stonewall penalty on Mayoa.
Oh yes,
I had such a clear view of it because of where I was, but he basically gets there before Ibsen Rossi, and his follow through catches him. Like, maybe it's because he's so big or whatever. He doesn't get that call, but it's 100% a free anywhere else in the pitch, and you're nearly cursing it, because if that costs you, you're saying, oh,
yeah,
God,
sliding door moment there.
yeah. But thankfully, Ibsen Rossi got his comeuppance in the end and put the ball in our net for us. But yeah, it's you have to ride your luck at times. But I mean, I don't think anyone, even with the most rose tinted glasses, would look at either of those games and say the dog didn't deserve max points. And it's funny, I've gone into a few games this season, maybe not full of confidence. I think I said to you last time I was on, there'll be a few rough nights, and I've maybe been anticipating one of them at times.
Yes.
I mean, they continue to defy us, like, in terms of how up for it they are, and how good they are. Because again, not the Pats didn't have their chances tonight. They did, and you go back to the McClellan one, probably in particular before half time, but Hanang's made two really, really good saves as well from Horgan and Arubi.
Arubi's one, yeah.
So it's we could have had more, but you take them whatever way to come. The two goals we scored maybe weren't the prettiest, but I mean, I'll take 10 more of them over the next 5 matches if they're going.
I suppose the big problem now, James, is, and I'm sure you've got it too, is fan expectation starts to rise as these results come in. Probably, I somehow I don't find it's going to be hard for Kieran to keep these players grounded, because that just seems to be the mentality around this team. But like, if you take the first group of fixtures, and then I suppose you add in tonight as well, like, we have positioned ourselves in such a good place. For me, it's still about just getting points on the board and see where things lie. But I'm encouraged by seeing teams below me dropping points, because I still fear that could be where we end up at some stage. If anything, this has taught us, this league, you're only ever, and Pat's probably felt it last year, you're only ever a few injuries away from a crisis, and these things can happen very easily. And we talked about having, maybe not massive, particularly when you look at the bench, probably for the Shells match. Like, there's a lot of young lads on the bench there. We don't have massive experience outside of the core group that Kieran and Ken tend to use for most games. So right now, I suppose the thought should be on, let's still amass some points, but there's definitely a rise in expectation levels from the fans all of a sudden.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's getting too far ahead themselves. We probably joke about it a little bit, but
I don't know if you've got messages from one or two, but yeah, Stephen Todd thinks we're winning the league. So,
well, funny, I did look up. So we've had, at this stage, after 10 games, we'd more defeats in 2020 or 2014 and 2019 when we won the league than currently. We also had one defeat after 10 in 2016. But no, but like, I just think you have to enjoy it while it's happening. I don't think you can look too. It's far too early to be. If we're still up there, okay, we're still sitting fourth with 5-6 games to go. You can start thinking, geez, can we get into Europe here or whatever? But can we push for the title if we're only 3 points behind or whatever? But I think you just have to enjoy it while you can, because I made the point before kickoff tonight that, so as good as Pats have been in recent weeks and as good as their start has been, they were actually 3 points better off this year than at the same stage last year. And in the second series of games, they only took 9 points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can be good and then a slump hits, and hopefully that doesn't happen to us. But I mean, there's history of that. The night we went to Bowes, I think they had their best start in a few years, and the last time they had a better start, I think, was 2023. They finished 6th behind us. So, having had the identical start to this season. So form can change and dip very quickly. And hopefully that doesn't happen to us. But you just have to make sure that when you are on form, you pick up as many points as you can, and then when the slump does hit, you don't get too down about it. Because you look at Pats, for example, right? If I'm a Pats fan tonight, I'm disappointed coming away, and all of a sudden, they're playing Rovers on Friday night. Another team has beaten them already this season, and you could be very quickly, having been on such a high, you could be facing back-to-back defeats.
Yes.
So things can come at you really, really quick. And you look at even our neighbour Strahda, when they came to Oriel earlier in the season, they were back-to-back wins at the start of the season. First time they've done it in 10 years or something, and they haven't won since. So. And it can be hard to get out of that when it happens. And if it happens to us, we probably don't know that real answer yet, how they're going to deal with a bit of adversity at this level. But hopefully that's something we don't need to find out for a while. But I do think you just need to, I firmly believe they're just taking it game by game. And that's such a cliche. But it is, because I think they're just managing things day to day. Because right now, I'm sure if you're Kieran Clough sitting probably at home at this stage, you're probably thinking, who actually have I available for Friday night? Because you don't know if you've anyone back. You don't know if there's a few knocks or niggles. Like we mentioned, Conor O'Keefe there. Is he available to me Friday? So there's a bit of let's just wing this to a certain extent. And he's not winging it. Like, there's great preparation and everything going in behind the scenes. But the overall thing is just like, literally, let's go with it, week to week and see where it takes us. And why would you change that now? It's worked so far for the first 10, so why not for the second 10?
Yeah, I suppose the only thing you can draw back to it, I remember there was times last year, did we draw with Harps at home, and then there was a draw, I think, or something at Longford. There was a couple of results that you thought we should have had the better of last year. So you hope they can draw back to that if there's one or two results that don't go for us, that, this group in one way or another have been here before, and you can hope you can draw on that to push on. But when you consider, James, how probably the promotion last year was based on this home form that we had, undefeated in a whole season at home last year, and you look at these next group of fixtures coming, it's not as easy to do a run like that in the Premier Division as it was in the First Division last year. But you will hope with the crowd and everything else is there, and could there be even something with players just trying to get used to this new pitch when they come to Oriel Park, the opposition players, that maybe that might feed into us. I seen one or two of the Pats players losing footing there tonight, and I just wonder, could that just be an extra little thing maybe for us? But definitely in the atmosphere and how we set out, has to be the main thing, and try to get this Fortress Oriel in the Premier Division.
Yeah, well, I think the pitch is an easy excuse. If Pats come there tonight and win, I don't think anyone's talking about the pitch. I know players slip on grass as well. Look, I think any Dundalk fan would tell you, would we prefer to have a grass pitch? Yeah, but it's not like every surface you go to is immaculate either, particularly this time of year or whatever, but the summer. And in theory, that should be set up for Pats tonight. That's it. If you can't pass the ball around on that pitch,
true,
it's better than some grass pitches at the moment, purely because, and I think, to be fair to the Sligo fans, they acknowledge that, because they've struggled on, say, boggy pitches, but they probably produced one of their best displays against us, didn't get anything out of it, but it's conducive to good football if you're able to play it, and the Dundalk have shown that. But I do think that, the big thing, if you look to our fixtures, the next couple of Fridays, we've Derry and Galway in town. You've trips to Sligo and Waterford, with obviously Shells and Bows coming in between that. But as I say, 5 of your next 8 are at home. It's a chance to, I don't think anyone's going to fancy coming here. The fans do make such a difference. Again, we still have the brief performances there, but our next 2 away games are against the 2 bottom sides. So, if Dundalk can bring out decent crowd to Waterford, decent crowd to Sligo, which I'm sure they will. You know, the sky's the limit, but you can't look too far ahead either, because if you look at, you know, it's only a few weeks ago we were beating Waterford 5-0 and they look dead and buried. But if you look at their weekend, now they haven't won, but if you're a Waterford fan coming off that, saying, well, you know what, we've taken a point off the champions, we've taken a point off the, you know, the Bows are one of the, you know, top teams at the moment.
Top teams, yeah.
That's a decent weekend for them. So, like, you know, maybe they're not far away from finding something that clicks and they add a few more wins on the board themselves. So, as I say, we just need to take it game by game. Like, even looking ahead to Derry on Friday.
Yep.
It wouldn't actually surprise me if there's a new man in the dugout for that.
Do you think the 0-0 tonight might be the straw that broke the camel's back for?
I think they're just looking for a replacement, and as soon as they find it, they'll put like a more temporary one than anything. But I don't think there's a future for him there. I hope he continues to Friday, because I don't think the mood is great there. And I think if he can go 1-0 up against them, I don't know if there's a comeback in them at the moment. But if they have a new person in the dugout for Friday, I think maybe that gives them all a lift. But that makes Friday difficult to sort of preview and look ahead to. But certainly, it definitely wouldn't shock me if there was a change in direction there, if not pre-Friday, very shortly afterwards. And that's regardless of what happens on Friday.
It seems like two teams coming in on Friday, James, with vastly different feelings around both clubs. Like, you've got a joyous, harmonious kind of setup in Oriel right now, where the players are taking over nicely. The fans are 100% with them. You've seen that, like you say, in the attendance tonight, and even the away attendance on Shells on Friday as well. On the other side, with Tiernan Lynch and Derry, you feel that there's not a unity in that club, from management to players to fans right now. Like I say, it feels like the right time to play them. Whether that transforms or not, it's hard to know, but it definitely feels like they're coming in from different directions right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, look, it goes down to, and you have to give Kieran credit, like, I think everything that he did, you know, was meticulous. Like, he brought players in to fulfill certain roles. I think Derry were playing fancy football a little bit with some of their signings. Like, I mean, everyone points to James McLean. I'm not making it about him, but like, you look at all the players to sign on the left side. They've about 47 left wingers or left sided players, and there's about one lad who can play on the right. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, you know. But they're good players in isolation, but it just hasn't clicked for them. And look, from Derry's a club I quite like, and a lot of people around the club, I wouldn't wish bad on them, but I hope that continues for Friday at least. But it's not working there at the moment. I think that's plain to be seen. And as I say, hopefully that continues for one more Friday at least, because they're next up for us. But you know, again, you go back to Dundalk, they haven't sulked. Like, if you look at tonight's team, there's an argument to be made. We were down our spine, or what was our starting spine at start. If you go Conor Cairns in goal, Vinnie Leonard centre half, Pete Buckley didn't start tonight. If you make him as your main midfielder, maybe, and you know, obviously Danny Mullen would probably have been your starting centre forward if you're picking your team at the start of the year. And none of those were well, Pete Buckley came on. But you could even add Rona Teagan into that, maybe, because he was so highly rated. I think literally he was probably man of the match the last time he did play for us. So, you know, we haven't sulked or we haven't moaned about that. We've just got on with it, and other people have stepped up, and there's a real unity. Like, you see really good moments, like, but you know, like the likes of Shane Tracy pushed towards the crowd again tonight, you know, at the end, and they're happy for someone like him to have this moment. I spoke to Tyreek Wilson afterwards, and he's bigging up the young lads like Sean Space and Shane Tracy. It's not about him. They're all in this together, and there's something, you know, wholesome about that maybe other clubs, and not just Derry, don't seem to have right now. And I think, look, it's we're riding the crest of the wave on that, and as I say, like, long may it continue.
Yeah, just looking at the starting lineup for Derry tonight, still no Mickey Duffy. The two McLeans weren't in the starting, but I think James did come off the bench. Old favorite Cameron Dunnigan was on the bench, came off there as well. Like it feels like the right time to play them, but that could easily come back to bite us on Friday. We could say we got caught out of one, and Dara Markey pops off the bench or something. He didn't even get a run out tonight.
Yeah, like and look, like you mentioned some of those players there. Like when you have Darren Markey on the bench, you don't have a bad team or squad, and that's the thing. It's dangerous, and it only takes one sort of result maybe to change momentum, and they'll be looking at Dundalk. I'm sure. Look, if I was in the Derry dressing room, I'm saying, look, these guys are flying, but if we can put them in their place, maybe that's the thing we need to sort of kickstart our season and turn things around as well. So, they're too good a squad. I don't think Mickey Duffy will be involved. He's meant to be out for a month, but they need something quick, because if you look after us, like their next three after us is Shelburne, Rovers, and Bows. So that's like, with all due respect, I think we're the easiest on paper there, despite what the league table says. So there's a lot of pressure on them coming in on Friday, and it's interesting to see how they respond to it.
Just one last thing on Derry, James. There's certain similarities in both clubs, as in both of them are missing probably what would have been their number one goalkeeper in Mar and Cairns for respective clubs. Have we seen Enda Minogue probably step up and be a little bit more solid from the experience that he has had last year with this club and obviously with other clubs previously? And could that be somewhat of the difference as well?
Yeah, I thought he was excellent tonight. I went up last Monday to speak to Kilduff, and kind of I said to him, probably the biggest compliment you could give Enda is that no one asked him about him after the Bows game.
True.
And again tonight, I don't think anyone's really talking about him, but like that save he makes from Max Mata early on is crucial. And that goes in. I think Pats get the win behind their shields, and maybe it's a very different game. And again, just his basic handling at times and easing into pressure and stuff like that. It's brilliant. And as I say, I think the last time I was on, I just spoke with him post Sligo, and he said, look, he a difficult year last year, kind of on and off the pitch, and he felt he was past that now, and he's really shown it. That was a position I think most the Dog fans were probably concerned about when you lose your number one, and look, that's natural in a lot of clubs, but I mean he basically hasn't put a foot wrong in the game since. So again, long may that continue. But he was certainly in the running for man of the match tonight.
If you had to pick a man of the match, James, who would you pick tonight?
It's a difficult one, because there's a lot of sort of good performances. I know I mentioned Minogue there. I probably just wouldn't give it to him on the basis that I didn't think
there was a big save or anything like that. As in bar the first that, one.
But I think if you win 2-0 and your keeper gets man of the match, I think the consensus is that he had a really busy night and was pulling off save after save to earn you to win. And it wasn't that. He did very well. Don't get me wrong. Don't take anything away from him. But for me, probably someone like a Ruby. I think Tariq Wilson was brilliant again, but I just thought a Ruby, maybe I'm basing that over the course of the weekend, but his ability to hold the ball up and hassle defenders, and he did have a big hand in the assist for the first goal. As I said, mentioned that one, the footwork and trickery to set up that chance for Daryl Horgan early on as well. He was just brilliant, and even right to the end, he was causing them problems, and did a lot to tick down the clock. So, I think when you come up to this division, the biggest thing you probably have concerns over is your ability to score goals. And we're joint top scorers after 10 games, and he's been a big part of that with 4 scored, but also a couple of assists as well. So I think it's again, without I've delved into the other results tonight, but I think it's Horgan, Duffy, and Arubi now with 6 goal involvements, which is the highest in the league. Maybe someone will tell me someone from Shamrock Rovers did something tonight, and maybe they're involved in that as well. But I mean, that sums it up. And you're talking, by the way, about a player who hasn't played every minute, because maybe a month ago we were gushing over Danny Mullen, when he popped up with a couple of big ones. So, but yeah, his overall, I think, evolution is worthy of it, and I think he's put in quite a shift over the sort of 180 minutes plus over the course of the weekend.
Yeah, it's one of them. We always say, James, it's a sign of a good team performance when I can see like Enna Minogue being mentioned for player of the match, Shane Tracy getting a mention there as well. Harvey Warren playing extremely well. If I go through a few of them here, like there's a little bit. Even Mayo, when he came in, people were saying, real solid, two big challenges kind of set the tone for how the game was to end at that stage as well. In particular, that first one, I think he might have missed the second one, but it looked impressive, if nothing else. But yeah, for me as well, yeah, I just thought Bemi Ruby, he's turning into that target man that that we didn't know that was in him, but it turns out to be exactly what we need to really make this team tick over. And I think when you, like I say, if you take in the whole weekend in particular, he's probably the standout candidate across both. There's a ton of comments in. I see P. Kane there on the Instagram. So congratulations, you are a winner of our Tony's Pizzeria 15-inch pizza on ourselves here on the town end. So congratulations to yourself. Just get in contact with us and we'll put you on to Vinny and the lads. James, I said it wouldn't be alone. Apologies for that. I've ruined your bank holiday weekend.
We'll talk all day when it's a victory, won't we?
Exactly. It makes life so much easier. Thanks, James, so much for popping on. Thanks to Vinny and all the lads in Tony's Pizzeria for their continued sponsorship on the podcast, as well as Donald Green and Dundalk Village for their overall sponsorship as well. That's probably us. People just saying that we're all living in a Ruby's world. Owen Kenny, actually, one or two can mention a real solid first half performance in particular. I thought from Owen as well, good turns, but yeah, Shane Tracy getting another couple of mentions there. But we're done with our man of the match, and we're done for the show tonight. Thank you, James, so much for popping on. Congratulations before we finish to Gally and the Loud Schoolgirls team who were over in Blackpool at the weekend and actually picked up a trophy for, I think it was the under 16s, I think it might have been. So congratulations, girls. Good to have a trophy coming back to Loud as well for a competition like that, which was involved in teams from all around Scotland and England and Ireland, I believe. So a good calibre of competition there, and great for the girls to get involved in that.
The good thing is, though, I looked ahead, the league finishes on the October bank holiday weekend, so everyone can have a long weekend of celebrating the 15th league title coming to Oriel,
And on that note of not running away with ourselves, James.
I know, tongue in cheek.
Exactly, absolutely. Yeah. Look, thanks everyone for all their comments coming in. Probably went away on a couple of tangents, James, I wasn't expecting, but just as the questions come in, I do like to kind of get to a couple of them as we went. So look, we do appreciate this late hour that people are jumping in with their contributions as well. We'll be back again after the Derry match. So until then, come on to town.
My black and white scarf, my black and my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white, yeah, it's black and white, we're just black and white, it's my black and white, it's my black and white.